Whether it's the Himalayas or just Colorado, have you ever traveled to a place at a higher elevation and lost all semblance of physical fitness after just a few steps? What? It's time. Be right up. Much better. Hello everyone, Ron here with Southwest Colorado Adventures, and today I'm here to talk to you about carburetors. Carburetors? You know, those things that mix the air and the fuel before it goes into the engine for combustion.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Safety Tip Friday.
Back in the old days, if you were riding your motorcycle through the mountains, you had to carry an extra set of jets with you for your carburetor so that you could account for the differences in atmosphere at higher elevation than wherever you came from. That was just to be able to make it through the passes with your bike running reasonably well. We are a long way from those with our modern fuel-injected motorcycles. Thankfully, they do most of the work for us. So, what does any of that have to do with my stair fitness test example at the very beginning? I'm glad you asked. Imagine, if you will, you just got a new adventure touring motorcycle, it's shiny, and you have got the plan set to get up in the mountains at higher elevation and test that sucker out on some trails, no less. Your motorcycle is going to be fine. It's fuel injected, more than likely. However, if you're at a stop at a scenic overlook because you just got to where the views are big and you got some elevation, and you hop off your bike and you start walking around and you feel a dull thud in your head, you may think, well, my helmet doesn't fit right, or I've been wearing that thing too long, or maybe you feel a little bit dizzy. You might even want to stick your head over the side of the mountain and vomit. I've done that before. Then you may be experiencing AMS, acute mountain sickness, otherwise known as altitude sickness. But how did this happen? I've got the trip all planned out, and I've only got so much vacation time. What am I going to do? Or you may say, I run 5K a day. I'm going to be fine. Because I said that too. And you're right. You may be fine. But do you really want to gamble your big trip with your shiny new motorcycle on maybe? For my friends watching this in the UK, I'm going to quote some information from nhs.uk. It says, age, sex, or physical fitness level is not a determining factor of whether or not you'll get altitude sickness. So there's that, unfortunately. And also, you can't be rejetted. I'm not even sure how that would work. What do you do? Well, the first thing is for you to plan your trip with all of this stuff in mind so that you mitigate the circumstances for getting AMS, acute mountain sickness, or its ugly, more severe siblings, HAPE or HACE. Never heard of them? I hadn't either. From a CDC 2020 article, High Altitude and Altitude Sickness, these suggestions are given to reduce the chances of getting AMS. First of all, ascend gradually if you can. Avoid going directly from a low elevation to over 9,000 feet, 2,750 meters, where you're going to be sleeping for the first day. Once above 9,000 feet, move sleeping elevation no higher than 1,600 feet per day. And plan an extra day of acclimatization for every 3,000 feet that you ascend. If you get any value from this, slap a like on it. Consider subscribing to my channel. Okay, before I get into any of the symptoms of AMS and its uglier siblings, let's go over some prevention tips. Some of y'all may know that Aspen, Colorado is at a relatively high elevation, and the hospital there in Aspen Valley actually has some recommendations on some ways to mitigate AMS. This is from their website dated March 5th, 2021. I'm going to link all of my citations down in the description if you're curious. That way you can do some research on your own. Number 1, don't go crazy on your first day. When you get to town, take a little bit of time to walk around, acclimatize your body, go do some shopping. Don't go out and climb a 14er the first day when you arrive. I've done that too. In fact, I drove from Texas, about maybe 200 feet elevation, up to Buena Vista, Colorado, and yes, that's a correct pronunciation, which is almost 8,000 feet of elevation. Then we drove to the trailhead for Mount Princeton at the Chalet, which was about 12,000 foot elevation, making our run to the peak over 14,000 feet from there. It was all within a 24-hour period. As I got to the top, I took a picture of my brother because we didn't have cell phones back then, and he was just about to take my picture when I said, hang on just a second. I went to the side of the mountain, took care of some business, came back, took a picture, all good. Don't do that. It was no fun. Oh, by the way, I was in my 20s back then. That was a long time ago. Number 2, drink water. Another caveat to that is drink more water. And if you're curious whether or not you've drunk enough water, just drink some more. That's right, staying hydrated is key to keeping AMS symptoms at bay. Make sure that whatever you're doing, whether you're hiking, walking, riding your motorcycle, that you have got plenty of water with you to be able to maintain your hydration throughout the time that you are traveling around at higher elevations. You should do it anyway, but it's even more important at higher elevations. So you might want to stock up on some electrolytes. How do you do that? Well, you get to elevation and you see all the beautiful views and you think, I don't feel 100%. So what do? Drink water, but also you can get some electrolytes in you. And what's the best way to get electrolytes in you? If you had the opportunity to shop at a sports nutrition store before you got to the little mountain village, then that's great. Use that, drink that, make sure that your body is replenished. If not, and all you have access to is a city market or a Walmart, Pedialyte works great for replenishing electrolytes. I know that's for kids, but guess what? It still works even for adults. Number 3, avoid alcohol for at least the first 48 hours. So whenever I said run around town, look at some shops, maybe something like that, hang out at the hotel, it doesn't include drinking alcohol. Just hang loose for a little bit. Give your body some breathing room to be able to acclimatize. Alcohol aggravates AMS-related symptoms because it contributes to dehydration, which is the opposite of drinking a lot of water. In the previous article by the CDC I was talking about, they agree with avoiding alcohol for at least 48 hours. They do, however, say that if you're a normal consumer of caffeine, keep doing that. So there's that. You still got at least a vice. And even though you're super excited about being up in the mountains and getting on with your big journey, number 4 is get plenty of rest. Give your body the opportunity to recuperate and adjust to the new altitude that you're at. Avoid overexertion and exercise for the first day or so. Just take it easy. Ease yourself into it. It'll be better for the long haul. Number 5 is listen to your body. If you notice the onset of symptoms or if symptoms start to get worse, just take a step back. Maybe go down an elevation for just a little bit. Try sleeping at a lower elevation. Give your body just that little bit of time that it needs to acclimatize properly. Speaking of the onset of symptoms, here they are. These come from WebMD, January 31st, 2017. What is altitude sickness? Acute mountain sickness, AMS, is the mildest form of altitude sickness. And it's very common. I've had it, my wife's had it, it is common. And we live at 7,500 feet elevation. The symptoms can feel like a hangover. Dizziness, headaches, muscle aches, nausea. Catch it early. If you do feel the symptoms coming on, just reverse course for a minute. Let them pass before you move on up to higher elevations. Okay, one of the uglier siblings is called HAPE. High altitude pulmonary edema. That sounds pretty bad, right? This is actually a buildup of fluid in the lungs that can be life-threatening. In fact, this is the most common cause of death from altitude sickness. And not only that, it's not even the most severe level of altitude sickness. The last is high altitude cerebral edema, HACE. This is the most severe form of altitude sickness, and it's when there's a buildup of fluid on the brain. It too is life-threatening, and you need to seek medical attention ASAP. Okay, let's talk about a real-world situation here. You ride your adventure touring motorcycle up to Silverton, Colorado from Texas. Texas is low elevation. Silverton is about 9,300 feet elevation. That's high elevation. That's above the 9,000 foot threshold. This may seem a little bit annoying, but the good news is that there is a long drive between Texas and Silverton. I know you want to get there fast, but it's a long drive. You do need to rest. Split the difference on elevation and stay the night so that your body can begin to acclimatize. Albuquerque, for example, is about 5,300 foot elevation. Flagstaff is 6,900 feet elevation. Denver, everybody knows, the mile-high city, 5,280 foot elevation. Any of those places are splitting the difference likely from where you're coming from to where you're going. especially if it's Silverton, because it's over 9,000 feet elevation. The next day, you head north of town. You go up to Cinnamon Pass, which is amazing. The trails north of Silverton are incredible. Cinnamon Pass is about 12,260 feet elevation. You notice that, hey, there's a little pond down there. That looks pretty cool. You pop on your motorcycle, ride down a little bit further, begin to hike around, take some pictures. You take a selfie with the background. You take a picture of your bike with the background just to prove to yourself and everyone else that you actually did this trail. That's just what we do. Then you start to feel some of the symptoms that I'm talking about right now. They can come within 12 to 24 hours, if not before. So what do you do about it? Let's back up a bit and go to the easiest steps. Like WebMD said, drink water. And then drink more water. Make sure that you pack it with you. That is a must have. You have to drink water. Then back up a little bit. Just go down in elevation until the symptoms ease. If at any time the symptoms become more severe and your symptoms are going the wrong direction, seek medical attention. Better safe than not safe. So what are some other things you can do? Well, there's a lot of oxygen bars around high altitude towns like Purgatory, Telluride, some of those places where all the ski resorts are, Breckenridge, Copper Mountain. Is there one in Silverton? No, there's not. In fact, oxygen is not effective at acclimatizing your body in small doses like you would get in an oxygen bar or out of the bottle that I used earlier. In fact, Condé Nast did an article on oxygen bars trying to determine what their effectiveness was. They talked with a doctor named Peter Lemus at Summit Cardiology in Frisco, Colorado. Now, he treats a lot of patients with AMS symptoms. Unfortunately, what he says is, though while you're actually taking the oxygen, your symptoms might be reduced. My wife, when we traveled up to Buena Vista one time, because that's our playground, we love that area, she actually came down with some symptoms. Now, we did get oxygen and we did give that to her, and it did help reduce and ease her headache. Really and truly, it was us getting back down off the mountain that took care of the issue. Next day, she was fine. Now, if it's unavoidable for you to go up to a high elevation and really not allow your body to acclimatize properly, you can get a prescription from your doctor called acetazolamide. What that does is it just helps speed up the body's acclimatization, and it's generally used above 10,000 feet. The recommendations for that prescription are to begin taking it a couple of days ahead of time and then for a couple of days after you're actually at altitude, or until the symptoms clear. It also says it won't protect you from the symptoms of HAPE and HACE, so if those symptoms present, you need to seek medical attention. Go to a lower elevation, seek medical attention. To treat HAPE, WebMD again says medication may be necessary, supplemental oxygen, and going to a lower elevation will help reduce those symptoms. To treat HACE, WebMD says dexamethasone, which is a steroid, could be used to help treat the symptoms there, along with supplemental oxygen and a decrease in elevation. Again, if you found any value of this, it's not just for motorcycle riders, this is for skiers, hikers, anybody going up to elevation. Slap a like on the video and consider subscribing. There's more where this came from. And though this information is relevant for anyone going to a higher elevation, it definitely applies to adventure touring motorcyclists as well. A lot of times you can cover many of these elevations in one day. It's just good to make sure that you are prepared for what your body may do on the trip. Planning ahead is the way to go. There's nothing worse than having your vacation ruined due to an illness or an injury. I sure hope that some of this information has helped you think about some different ways that you can protect yourself and prevent any symptoms from AMS even occurring. Nobody wants that bad stuff to happen. You know what? It's almost Christmas right now. It's probably not the right time, in North America at least, to go adventure touring. However, consider saving the video so you can watch it later. Whenever you're dusting off your plans for the summer, you can pull this out and just make sure that you take preventative measures for altitude sickness. I want everybody that's watching this to enjoy their time in the mountains. Don't let something that is preventable ruin that. Thank you for watching. Be safe out there, everyone. We'll see y'all soon.